We're going to create a YouTube title rewriter with AI. Type in any title that you want AI to rewrite, and it will rewrite a whole bunch of titles just like this. We're going to be building this with Node.js and OpenAI. So let's get into it. So the first thing is you need to create a folder. Mine is called YouTube, so YT title rewriter. So we need to create a new Node project. So to do that, we're going npm init y, and this basically just says to know that we want to use sort of the default settings. And so now we need to make Node accept kind of a new import style instead of require. To do that, we say npm package, and then we say set type to equal module. And so now we need to install two other packages. So npm install OpenAI, and we also need to install .env. Okay, so we'll quickly clear this, and you'll see at the top here, you've got your node modules and then your package.json files. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need to get our API key, and we need to create a .env file. To do that, we're going to create a .env file, and we need to grab our API key. So we're just going to call this OpenAI API, and then we'll say it's key. And then from here, we need to go to platform. I'll just bring it over into the screen here, platform.openai.com. And we need to go to the API keys, and we need to create a new API key. If you don't have an account, you do have to set up an account. Here, we're going to create a new API key, and we're going to call this our YouTube title rewriter API key. And so we're going to create that. If I spelled rewriter right, yep. And so we're going to put that under our YouTube project. And so create our API key. And so once you get it on the screen, you've got to copy it here. You won't be able to copy it again. So you press copy. And so now I will be deleting this API key after this video. But anyway, copy your API key. And then we're going to go back to our project, and we're going to paste our API key right in here and save that. So the next thing we do need to do now is we need to create a file to start writing our program. Just going to create a basic JavaScript file, sorry. So title /rewriter.js. And now we're going to start importing some libraries. So importing our helper library rather, which is our OpenAI from OpenAI. And so this brings in the library from AI, so the helper library, so we can use some functions that OpenAI gives us. And then we want to write import as well. We want to import our .env file /config using the configurations in the .env file. And so now we want to create a client object so that we can talk to the API. So to do that, we create a new variable. I'll put on another line actually. So const client equals new OpenAI. And so open up some brackets, open up some curly brackets as well. And so here we're going to say API key, and then we're going to say the process.env.openAI API key. And so basically process.env.openAPI key, this basically reads the key from our env file. This is what we need so that we can interact with OpenAI's AI. Step 4 is we need to read the user's draft title from the command line. So to do that, we're going to create a new variable called raw input. If I can just spell today, raw input equals process.argv. And so I'll explain what I'm doing here. And then we want to slice the first two pieces of information, which is going to be our node and our file. So slice those, and then we're going to join them. And we also want to make sure that we trim any white space as well. So .trim. Now, having trouble typing today. So if we type in a title, let's say 5 best coding tips, what this line of code does is it splits, because we're going to run this title, we need to write, node, and then we need to write the title of the file, which is our title.rewriter file. So basically, this file right here. So we have to write this in the command line first. And so what it does here is it puts each one of these inputs into an array and separates them. So node becomes its own index. So node there, and then obviously the title of the file title, which is, title rewriter, which we have right here. And then, oh gosh, the autocomplete is crazy. And then obviously it puts 5 in its own little index and encoding tips. And so it just grabs all of this, so it closes that array. So it puts all of this into an array, and then it will grab each individual word so that the LLM can analyze it. And now we need to create sort of a guard clause to make sure that they've actually typed something in, make sure that the user types something in. So if there's no raw input, then we need to log something to the console. So we say console.error, and then we'll say sort of the usage is going to be from, Node, and the title, rewriter.js file. It's going to say, your draft YouTube title. Okay, underneath that, we need to write process.exit. And so what this does is it'll exit out of the program if it's not working. We type in 1 here because this stops the program. It means, something went wrong. If we type 0, it means, it's all good to keep going. And next we need to provide some guidance to our LLM. So we're going to give it some instructions. So const instructions. And these instructions, we're going to open up some backticks, are going to say, you are an expert YouTube title editor. Rewrite titles to be clear, curiosity driven, and under 60 characters. This is important because it saves the amount of tokens that you spend. And next we want to just say maybe like, avoid fluff, keep the benefit obvious. So obviously we could keep writing different instructions all day, but I think that's going to be good enough for now. Actually, we might say one more thing, and that is to, vary the title angles. This will help to just keep things a little bit more different with the output. And so next we need to add a specific task with the user's title. So to do that, we're going to say const input to be, open up some backticks, and here we're going to say so it's going to take in our raw data input, or our raw title, rewrite this draft title into, we'll say maybe 8 strong options. And the title that we're going to give it is obviously going to be our raw input. So we're going to open up some curly brackets here, type in raw input so that it knows, to find, so that it uses this raw input title, and then it goes ahead and then it rewrites this draft title into 8 strong options. So now that we have all these instructions, we then need to ask OpenAI to rewrite what we want it to rewrite. So that means we need to create a try and catch statement. Catch, and so here, and so, a try catch statement is basically like saying, try this, and if anything breaks, do this, right, with our catch statement. So the first thing we need to do is create a response variable to tell OpenAI what we want the response to be. So we tell it to await, which means to pause here until, the AI answers. Then we're going to say client response dot create. And this is what we want it to create with the response. And that is to, let me just remove that. And that is to, go to the model, which in this case, we're going to say we want the model to be GPT, we'll say 4.0 mini. Just because it's a cheaper model and we don't want to spend a ridiculous amount of money on tokens for an advanced model, especially for a very simple program like this. And then we're going to tell it to read the instructions that we've provided. Instructions, I've spelled wrong. Instructions. And we're also going to tell it to read the input as well that we're giving it, which is this information up here. So we've got our input and our instructions that we're asking the LLM to read. From there, we want to write these to the console. So console.log, and then we're going to say, to response.output_text, and we want it to trim any white space that's at the front or back. And so this is going to give our response from the LLM that we're asking to write our titles. And then finally, we want to finish out by writing our catch statement. So catch any errors. And so once we find an error, we want to say console.error, and then in the console error, so we want to sort of write error and tell us what the error message is. And so error.message, and OpenAI will tell us what the message is. Then we need to quit the program. If that happens, process.exit, and this will end the program 1. Okay, so really exciting. Let's test this out. So node, and we're going to call the title rewriter.js file, and then we're going to say create a YouTube title writer with AI. Let's see what it says. Okay, so cannot read properties under define create. So I think we've got an error here. So response maybe should be responses. And what else? Responses. Oh, okay. I think I've spelled this wrong. So output text. All right, cool. Let's just clear this now. And let's say node title rewriter.js. And let's say create a YouTube title rewriter program with AI fast. Okay, hopefully this works. Let's see what it does here. It's thinking, okay, cool. We've got 8 titles. Build an AI-powered YouTube title rewriter. I quickly create, it's so good, AI and all these different titles here, guys. So obviously you can go in, you can change some of the instructions, you can change some of the output as well. So let's say, I don't know, if we wanted 5, you can change it to 5. And then let's just copy this so I don't have to write it all over again. Paste this into our program, and it should give us 5 responses. So yeah, that's really cool. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed this program. I'll put this in a GitHub repo that you can download below. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, guys. I'll see you guys in the next one.